slave. They telling me they believe, and I got stay on for days. And when I do drop an album, they'll be.
Welcome back to the Zach Knows Podcast. I'm Zach Collins, obviously. And we got a couple things we need to be covering. I posted this episode a day later than I posted my first episode last week. So I had to do some catching up. It wasn't as many games this week. Well, that had been coming up. We only have, I think, I predicted the Monday night game. We had 2 bowl games. The girls played another basketball game. But other than that, it hadn't been as much as this past weekend. So I was just letting the content build up for me to have multiple talking points. So first, speaking of the girls, we'll talk about they had another outing against a top opponent in Iowa State. They had a rough go. I think the final score was maybe like 96-49 or something. I know in the first half, we only scored a total of 10 points. And once again, that being the same type of matchup where you're playing a team that's in a bigger conference where they get taller players. They play against certain teams that just might be outmatched physically. So that's just where we're at in that point of the season. I'm honestly ready for them to stop playing these games and get into the SWAC games, but that's neither here nor there. Our leading scorer was Artavia Ford. She had 22 points, which was nearly half of our offense, but I guess that's a shining light to look at within this game because with us playing an opponent the way we did, being a top-tier opponent, for somebody to have 22 points on their team like that, for what I would say wouldn't be our leading scorer, I would say Shayla would. So just for us to find another option to be able to put up that amount of points, that's something that we can at least hang our hat on. So congrats to her on her performance, although we know it's all a team game, so I'm sure she's not going to be like focused on her accomplishment within that game. But also, I'm just ready to see them in the SWAC play against the teams like Grambling, Texas Southern, and see how we match up against them because at the end of the day, that's really what matters. And see where we go in SWAC conference play and turn around and come back again in the conference tournament and see how we fare with, under this new staff and how our team has grown from last year to this year. Okay, moving forward, we had early National Signing Day, so Prairie View had 7 new signees. It was one quarterback from Iowa Western. He originally signed to Kansas. You can see on his Twitter, I had just searched him because I want to know who he signed. And the first thing he has that pops up is this crazy catch. So he's just going to fit right in with our athletic quarterbacks of Trajon Conley and Jalen Morton. So we'll just see where he goes. There's a little whispers if he's going to play receiver, he's going to play quarterback. So we'll figure out what he's going to do. You have 2 offensive linemen coming from the same JUCO in Mississippi. Copi Lynn is what it's meant for. One of them is 6'7", and the other one is 6'5". I hadn't seen the 6'7" kid, but I met the 6'5" dude. He's more like 6'3". Plays right tackle. And we're looking at more depth on the O-line. That's something I said we needed. That way we could have a deeper rotation because towards points in the season, it was a 6-man, 7-man rotation with Reese Mallory. But now you have people like Marquez Griffin coming back, so that'll strengthen the O-line with him coming back for his redshirt senior year. You have other players like that. So this is just points to where we see they're actually paying attention in certain aspects to their, I wouldn't say their weaknesses, but their points of need. Also moving forward, we got 2 more wide receivers, one being a Texas A&M transfer, a kid out of New Orleans, and then a speedster that I've seen firsthand last year at our mega camp we had, where him and our quarterback that we signed last year, D-Man, where they both had this nice little connection, and they were honestly tearing up all of the little high school kids because he was just fast. So that's a dynamic receiver I want to see in this offense with this being a fast-paced, up-tempo, big play focused. I feel like he'll fit right in within the scheme of our offense. And lastly, we signed 2 linebackers. One linebacker being a JUCO transfer from Mississippi Delta, a kid who I think he's one of the top-rated JUCO linebackers, not only athletically but physically. I mean, athletically, but mentally, I think he had all whatever his conference is honors for academics, and then we have a Ball State transfer. I think he's still gonna. I think it was just he spent 1 year at Ball State. Kid out of New Orleans, so it's a slight little theme within our team of everybody having a Louisiana connection or Mississippi connection because I don't think we have somebody really on our staff from Texas, so I feel like that's more where they're gearing their classes to, what they're focusing on. That's just where they feel like is the best players. I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong. That's just I feel like we can see that pattern coming up within our recruiting class that we just signed. So now we can get on to the bowl games. I went 1-1 for the first 2 games of this week. You have UAB playing NIU, Northern Illinois. Or no. Yeah, Northern Illinois because I was the public school. Northern Illinois. UAB comes out instantly. The commentators were having a little argument saying both of these are running teams. Neither of them really take shots. And then first play of the game, 75-yard bomb to UAB, and that just shows you they were just on a mission tonight to just not only get this game in and out, but they were showing you that they have some explosiveness on the offense. The receiver, he was about 6'5", 210. He made an amazing play. He had about 9 grabs towards the end of the game, so it was something that I guess they had a focal point in their offense. Him being a senior, they wanted to lead it around him and show what he was really capable of to the next level. Because they said he has some interest, but they just want to. I like stats like that allow certain players that they feel like may have a chance, but they need certain things on film. They allow them to get that on film. That shows that not only they care about winning, but they care about that player's future, and that helps them. And that's a program where, if you think back a couple of years ago, they shut the program down because they felt like they weren't winning enough. They hired this coach. He believed in his staff. He talked to these players good enough to say, as soon as we're allowed to come back, we're going to come back winning. And he held his promise up on that end. That's their second year winning bowl game in a row. And then we focus on the last night, where I took a loss. I picked San Diego State to beat Ohio, and it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. San Diego State had a couple issues before their game. Their starting left guard, he got suspended, violated team rules, and it just never seemed like it kept going. It never seemed like they could get it going. They ended up getting shut out 27-0, and the offense would be able to drive, but they could never finish these drives. And towards the end of the game, you've seen it where they got all the way down to the 20, and they kept going for it. They went for it 3 times on 4th down, and the last one they didn't get it, so they had to get the ball away. And that's hurting for the Washington kid because he's a local product from Texas. I think he went to Kennedale, and it was just, I know how that feeling is whenever you go to college out of state and then come back home and your team doesn't perform the way you wanted to. That's a feeling because I'm sure he had anywhere from 10 to 20 people in the stands. So just to go, and he still had a solid game. Quietly, he had 120 yards. But that's the thing about these two offenses is that once you get them behind the 8 ball, with them being run-heavy offenses, especially San Diego State, they're known for putting out running backs, which is ultimately why I picked them, because I felt like their running game was going to lead them to victory. But the Ohio quarterback, he was just having the game of his life. Threw for a touchdown it was a flea flicker. Threw a 35-yard touchdown. Ran in 2 more touchdowns. And then that's the 3 touchdowns they had. The running back had over 130 yards rushing. So it's just, they just got outmatched tonight. And I feel like going forward, with it being the next bowl game we have tonight, Thursday night, is going to be, I'm blanking out. We'll get back to that. But yeah, recapping it more further. That might have been one of the worst. We seen the offensive side of ball dominate when we watched the Chiefs and the Rams play a month ago. that game we watched where it was the Panthers and the Saints, it just seemed like nobody wanted to win. These offenses would go, just drive down the field, and they'll either kick a field goal or not score. We had a 2-point conversion return for two the other way. Like, it just, these teams just, it was like, you win. No, you win. No, it was just like, it wasn't the performance I had wanted it to be. Oh, here we go. That's who played. I'll figure that. I'll go back to that. But yeah, it seemed like neither one of these teams wanted to win. And it was like, it was hard to watch because these are two offenses that's sputtering. Ever since the Saints have lost to the Cowboys, they haven't been able to find their mojo. Kamara is not playing the type of ball he's used typically playing. Drew Brees isn't in the same rhythm. It doesn't seem like no matter who's on the outside anymore, besides Mike Thomas, he can still get the ball. Not saying he's been inaccurate, but they just haven't been on the same page since this Cowboys game. And I feel like the last time fans bring up whenever they lost to the Cowboys last time they won the Super Bowl and they woke them up. Instead of waking them up this time, I feel like it shocked them and they didn't understand, like, they weren't prepared to just beat every team and score 50 points. So now that they have something like on film to show that they can stop this offense, now they're trying to find their way of what's going on. So that's their issue. Cam hasn't been himself since they played Pittsburgh. And it's just terrible to just watch that offense. Like, usually Cam has this personality that just takes over all assets of what he does, like commercials, press game, post game conferences, his little walk, his practice before the game where he's just showing off his new cleats that he can't wear in the game. And he just didn't seem that he just don't have that same feel. Like, it just feels like he's defeated at certain points of this season, especially when he's playing the Saints. You would think with a division opponent, they're trying to secure first place in the NFC, and you would want to stop them from that. But it just felt like certain times he couldn't do that. And I know he just got placed on IR, so hopefully he feels better. Whatever injury that he's going through, I hope it gets better, because with him being that physical quarterback, it's starting to catch up with him. You can see it in certain aspects of his game where it's just he's not being able to do certain athletic things that he wants to do. So that's just something that I feel like we need to focus on. Is one, Drew Brees is third in the MVP race now. It's Patrick Mahomes and it's Phillip Rivers. And if we're going to be honest, it's still Patrick Mahomes no matter what. But Drew Brees is just, his last couple of weeks, they haven't been up to par to where he needs them to be, his team needs them to be. And I feel like that's something that definitely should be taken into consideration, because Patrick Mahomes hasn't stopped. He still has 2 games to get 5 touchdowns. And that's going to happen probably in the next game, just because this offense may feel like they didn't do enough the last week, so now they have to come with it. So that's just my little rant on Drew Brees and them not playing the type of ball I feel like I want them to play. Going back to the bowl games, I'm sorry, I finally remembered it was behind me. Tonight we have the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. These names are terrible. If you're not in the Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, they just be throwing words together and calling it a bowl. Like last night was the DXL Frisco Bowl. Nobody knows what that is. Anyways, South Florida and Marshall playing tonight. They're playing in Raymond James Stadium, which basically is going to be a home game for South Florida. I'm picking South Florida to win. I feel like they want to bounce back from the loss they had in their conference championship game. They didn't knock out. His knee just gave out. They lost to their rival, UCF. And I feel like they want to come back and prove themselves, get another 9-win season. So that's part of the reason why I picked them. I'll be back on Saturday to give y'all the recap of the game and give y'all an update on the next game that's happened. So today we have Marshall versus South Florida. I pick South Florida. And then Friday we have FIU versus Toledo in the Bahamas Bowl. I'm going to go Toledo. I'm leaning towards Toledo on that team, on that game. That's probably one of the better bowls. It doesn't have a good name either. His name is Makers Wanted, whatever that means. But I see Toledo winning that game just because the running offense. I like that style of play. They're going from the middle of the United States being cold to now they're getting to enjoy themselves in Bahamas. So I picked Toledo to win that game. And then the Idaho Potato Bowl, Western Michigan versus BYU. I'm taking BYU. But that's neither here nor there. Back to NFL news, where we got some Pro Bowl snubs, and one of them has another issue. But the first issue we're going to talk about is Pro Bowl snubs. Darius Leonard, kid from South Carolina State, HBCU grad. During the draft process, they were saying, well, post-draft, where everybody was doing recaps, they were critiquing the coach for drafting him, saying it was a bad pick. And all he's done is come to the NFL, and I think he has the most tackles for a rookie ever with 2 games remaining. And you just see, like, he's playing relentlessly. Like, his whole life they wanted to prove, like, he's made to play this game. South Carolina kid didn't get an offer from Clemson, so he held that on his shoulders. But he's also an HBCU grad, and I also feel like he's playing to show, like, you can come from this level and you can play at the NFL level and you can really ball. And he's doing that. So, and he's a snub. I think he has, like I said, he leads the NFL in tackles. He's about to set the rookie record at an enormous pace. He got mad that he didn't get picked that he didn't originally get selected to go to the Pro Bowl. So they play the Giants this weekend. He said he wants 40 tackles. That is insane. I don't think it's going to happen. But I don't see him not getting at least 20, 25 tackles, which would ultimately set a new record, I want to say. And that's a different standard when I was watching the game and he's just sideline to sideline making plays. And you could see it's a certain want to. You could see in players where they just play this game for different reasons. And you can just see, like, it means everything to him to play football and be good at football. So that's the first Pro Bowl snub. Tyrann Mathieu, they didn't put my boy in. He's leading one of the best defenses in the NFL. He's given them something that they needed in the back end. I feel like the tandem between him and Justin Reed is a nice rookie and vet tandem. He's brought just a different feel to that team because they've always had this talent of J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Covington in the middle. They've always had Clowney. But they could never fully put it together. I feel like Watt would be in, Clowney wouldn't be there. Clowney would be in, Watt wouldn't be there. Or certain things like that. So for him to finally get this team together, and it feels like they buy into what he's saying, is he has a certain aura, and he's brought a certain swagger to that team where it's like they here now. Like I watch how teammates interact in all phases. So now they all use his little terms on Instagram, glory boys, glory, all of that. And that's something for me, I can understand being a leader where it's like they feed into everything you do, and it's not everything you do encompasses within that team. So for them to not put him on the list, it's really laughable if we're going to be completely honest. And that's something that I feel like definitely, if the Texans don't win, he'll end up going to the Pro Bowl, but he doesn't feel the same way. It's not the same feeling when it's like I got selected for it. But we also have snubs like Alvin Kamara, which I don't know how in the world Alvin Kamara does not go as a little specialist, as a running back slash receiver with all the catches he makes out the side of the backfield. If we're being completely honest, I feel like that offense goes through him and Mark Ingram. Now at this latter part of Drew Brees' career, and they lean heavy on if he has a good game, that's when they mostly win. He has 30 and 40 point fantasy games. So for him to be snubbed, I felt like that was bad voting. But also, I guess some people don't see him having the opportunity to play in the Pro Bowl because they feel like the Saints are Super Bowl contenders. But I feel like he's one of the best 6 running backs in the NFL, and I definitely feel that he should have been on the list along with Juju Smith-Schuster, who's playing out of his mind for it to be his second year. He's not only been a compliment to Antonio Brown, he's learned how to be one-on-one all day. And I think people forget that following his junior year, he was going to be a first-round pick. People are not realizing that this is not a kid that was just a normal, under-the-radar product. No, they were saying Juju Smith-Schuster was the best receiver in the nation. He just didn't have a quality senior year up to his standards because he was every season, freshman, sophomore, and junior, he was just steadily rising in stats, touchdowns. So he had a underwhelming senior year, and that's what really dropped him. I guess they didn't like this little process because he acted young. He's on social media. He has a YouTube channel. He is into gaming. But you can see that he takes his craft very seriously. And Ben is starting to trust him more, and he just become the second option within that offense, or a 1A option, if we're being completely honest, because nobody just has 1,000 yards in there, second to somebody else. But obviously we know he's not on Antonio Brown's level yet, but he gets to learn from a great day in and day out. So that's a relationship that I feel like is definitely feeding into him. He should really be at the Pro Bowl, and if the Steelers don't make it, which I don't see them really making it, he'll get the nod later on in the line. Who else we had? We had Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is having a 1,000-yard season in his second season. I think he got hurt towards the end of last year, and now he's finally coming together. He's fully healthy. He's missed a couple games, but that's the life of a running back. Excuse the cut. Somebody called me. But, yeah, Joe Mixon, I feel like he got snubbed for the Pro Bowl and still staying within the NFL realm. In 11 weeks, Eric Reid has been tested 7 times. You just see the NFL's agenda here. They keep attacking this man, thinking he's going to slip up, and he's not going to slip up. Obviously, one, he didn't have to take steroids to get here, or whatever you feel like substance he's taking. And 2, why are you attacking this man? Same thing with Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard, they're trying to understand why he's so good and he played at this lower level. They don't feel like HBCU conferences can produce talents like this, but they're not drug testing Tariq Cohen every week or Teron Armstead. So I don't understand why they keep nagging and picking at these young men when it's like, we have the concept. We know that you're going to attack us. We're not going to put ourselves in a position to mess this up. We understand the opportunity we have in front of us. This is not somebody like Josh Gordon who's going to keep getting in trouble. Eric Reid stands for something. He understands that this platform is bigger than him just having a football background or him having a career. No, he understands that with this platform, he can help his people. He can try to change the world, which they're not even allowing him to do so. That's the issue, really, that the NFL has, because he has a voice and he wants to use it. And then also, they're just trying to figure out how is Darius Leonard this good and he didn't play major college football. And that's where I question him, because, like, you have players like Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen isn't coming out saying he's been tested multiple times, and he came from Minnetonka or wherever he was in Minnesota. Little things like that is just, you can see the agendas the NFL owners have, the PA has, and they want to get certain players out. Eric Reid is ultimately getting tired of it. You can see every time he posts the picture, he's just upset with another drug test. And they can't even enjoy themselves because it's like, no matter what I do, you're still going to drug test me. And it's like, when are you going to let me go? So that's my rant on them. Get into NBA news. Steph Curry had 32 points last night, and they still lost a close game. Is it Steph coming back now? They're trying to finally get their rhythm back, or are they losing themselves in this little space where their continuity is not right? And that's the thing. We come into these seasons, and we feel like certain teams are just gonna keep going on from the past season. You gotta understand, every season is new, and I feel like at certain times we don't do that. We feel like it's the Jacksonville example. For we act like we didn't see 10 years of Jacksonville being below average. We get to this season and their injuries hit, and all of a sudden we act like we didn't know they were used to losing. Now, Golden State, they've been on a 4 or 5 year run, but they still have losing ways in certain aspects. Obviously, they're winners through and through, but at this point, when even the best teams aren't on one accord, or at least close to the same page, they can lose. And we're seeing that with this team because they're ultimately talented. But it's just dissension in there. But it's nowhere near the dissension I feel like that's creeped into Boston. Boston isn't even in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference. They just lost again to the Suns, who are 8-24. How does that happen? I don't even know, to be honest with you. You watched the game, Devin Booker had 25, a nice little solid game. But you lose to the Phoenix Suns. You're the 8th win of the season for the Phoenix Suns. That's a season where it's just underwhelming. And you're hoping that which it's not even like they're in a bad position. I think they're 18-10, 18-11 now. It's not like they're out of playoff contention, but you want a team to slowly grow throughout the season. And last year, they would take some losses that I felt like it'll be a night where they feel like they can do. They can just come with minimal preparation, and they felt like they could still win. So last night could have been one of those nights. But I don't like the way that team is. I feel like there's definitely going to be some moves at the trade deadline. Maybe Terry Rozier goes. Maybe we get rid of Gordon Hayward, although nobody, I feel like, is going to pick up that contract. Just certain things that need to happen. That locker room definitely needs a shake-up. And we definitely need to see where it's going from here on out. That's all I was really... Oh, LeBron... I don't know how to say it. Basically begging for Anthony Davis to come play with him because the Lakers are sputtering. It's now, they took a couple of losses, and now all of a sudden it's blaming the younger players, blaming everybody outside of LeBron, and now he's, I guess, publicly searching for help. So he's making comments trying to lure Anthony Davis to at least request a trade or be interested or looking to come into the Lakers. So I don't know. I don't see anybody going to LA with LeBron just because that's a whole. It's okay now when you look at the Warriors, but I just don't see anyone going out there. Kawhi loves it in Toronto right now. They're winning. I think KD wants to go somewhere where it's just him. And I think AD loves New Orleans. So I see him staying in New Orleans. That's where he's going to get the most money. And if he wants to win a championship, he might leave. But I feel like Anthony is going to stay in New Orleans. And something that I didn't notice till I started looking around. The Nets are on a 7-game winning streak. So I was saying, who is really winning out of that trade where you send D'Angelo Russell to Brooklyn, and now he's slowly turning that franchise around, which is what he was starting to win games in LA, but the Nick Young fiasco, Lonzo coming in, ultimately giving the reins to the franchise, they had to get him out of there. So congrats to him for finally, because I'm sure he's had a couple future years over there. But now they're coming together. They won a late game against Chicago last night, and their streak continues. So we'll kind of focus on that and see how far it goes. Will they make the playoffs? I don't think so, because their leading scorer is named DeWindy. Whatever that is. He had 27. I think that's the one that made the comment. He felt like a 6'3" light-skinned dude. He's talking about Steph whenever he shoots the ball and it goes in the net. So they're having fun with this. They're glad to finally be winning games. That's something that franchise rarely felt last year, and rarely has felt in a long time. So for them to win these couple of games and put these wins together, build a nice little streak, it changes the feeling around that organization. They may not be playing the Warriors, but it's just a different feeling when you see a W go in that win or loss column. It's a different feel. Winning cures all. And finally, we'll finish it off with the National Signing Day. My thoughts on the early National Signing Day. I'm going to say I'm for it as long as they allow these kids to be able to transfer freely, and we still have to sit out a year. And that's something where it's starting to become an issue where kids, if they don't play, they want to sit and transfer. And I get that that's a problem because it's a lot of entitlement going on. People feel that, oh, this coach told me I'm going to start. Like he has to start me. But this game is a grind. You have to be made to make it to that Saturday. Everybody, we have this conversation a lot. That's why I told y'all that they don't want to go get all these high school kids. It takes a certain type of person to make it to play on a Saturday. And some people might take that for granted. But for me, for my journey, it being so long before I played, it made me appreciate it so much more. It made me understand that these practices aren't coming back, that these games I'll never see again. Like, I'll never step on a football again wearing a PBAMU football jersey. I got gloves. I got the thousands of shirts, but it'll never be a helmet with me. And I appreciate that because that's the team that gave me my chance. That's the team that believed in me. And everybody's more focused on me. And that's the issue I have, not just with football, with society. But as far as for the early signing period, I like it. It allows teams to get the players that they feel like they need, recruit a little harder to see whoever's left outside of that signing day period. Because obviously teams like OU's, Bama's, A&M's, schools like that, they're taking up all the top prospects, and you get to see who's fell through the cracks, who's still looking, who had issues getting test scores. So it helps, but it also could hurt because I wouldn't even say it hurts. I would say it's probably best for us because we get to see who's still left on the recruiting board following the first signing day, first wave of signees. So congrats to all the new signees, high school or JUCO. I wish you best in your endeavors. This is episode 3 of Zach Knows Podcast. I'm Zach Collins.